Hi everyone, my name is Helen Fagan and I'm so excited to be a part of your journey, and I've been really impressed with your commitment and leadership. I've been doing diversity and inclusion work in healthcare for about 30 years, and one thing I can tell you about this work is that it's like remodeling a plane in a storm. It's hard. It's a crisis. And when you're remodeling anything, you're destroying it, even though it already seems like it's working, but you have a vision for something new, to advance something to a place where it's never been before. And when we're going through a crisis, there are two things available to us. There's danger and there's opportunity. The danger is that we double down and do things the way they've always been done. But the opportunity is everything's disrupted anyway, so why not try something new? We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And that's why I want to tell you about certain parts of my life, my family, and how I came into this work. And one of the most important things that we can do is unpack our own baggage, our own ideas, and learn from someone else's perspective, because no matter what, our education will never supersede someone else's perspective. Today's standard of healthcare has challenges with cultural competency. To respond, healthcare workers have begun advocating for the implementation of real tools for change in collaborative and patient-centered approaches to medicine. One tool is the Intercultural Development Inventory, a comprehensive survey for measuring group and individual cultural competence, ensuring that everyone, no matter their challenges or background, can receive the care they deserve. Enters Helen Fagan, as she gives permission in August 2020, advocating for the use of the IDI at Midwestern University. Helen highlights how the consideration of a patient's life experiences while addressing her own is essential to the best quality of care. Health Equity Director for AmeriHealth Cartios, Dr. Daniel Brooks, best explained it in October of 2019. Learn from the diverse voices of our providers, patients, and partners. Doing so gives all parties a seat at the table. Advocating for Intercultural Development Inventory by Helen Fagan. When I was 12 years old, my dad decided that he wanted his children to go to another country to be educated. And so my father moved my two brothers and my mother and I to England. And I had to learn enough English to survive school. And people at school would make fun of me for the way I spoke. So I was determined to make sure that no one knew that English was my second language. And for 3.5 years, it was great. I worked very hard at my English, and then England wouldn't renew our visas. And my dad started looking for another place, and he found an international boarding school that my two brothers and I moved to. I was 15 and had no parents. But I graduated high school by 16, and I'd earned my first degree by 18 and started working at McDonald's. But I had a different role, because I had a degree. And one day I had met this man, and he was bent over something fixing it, and I nudged my coworker and I said, "That's the butt I'm gonna marry." Fast forward a few years and I became a Navy wife. We'd gotten married and had two beautiful sons. And at one point my father came to visit us, and he was this powerful, multilingual, high executive leader in our country, and he'd stayed with us for about a month before he had a stroke. And it was the worst kind of stroke you could possibly have. In his brainstem, his ability to speak, move, anything was lost. And when he was lying in his hospital bed, he could nod a tiny bit and blink, mostly in response to questions. And one time when I was visiting him, a nurse came into the room and he was asking questions, and my father lost the ability to understand English. My father, who had made all the arrangements for us, made everything available to us, spoke English eloquently, and he couldn't even understand it anymore. And the nurse was getting frustrated because I was having to interpret everything for my father, and she turned to the person she was training and she said that she wished that we would learn to speak English. It would make their job so much easier. That did something horrible to me. It triggered something in me, and I followed her out into the hallway, and I said terrible, terrible things to her. I'm not proud of what I said. My father passed away not even 6 months later. But I went back to school, and I got another degree, and then I got into healthcare, and I created diversity and competence programs so that we could have an excellent healthcare experience for people that were if there were nurses out there, treating patients the same way as my father was treated. We had a 12-year-old boy that was life-flighted into the trauma center after he was riding his bicycle and got hit by a truck. And when the family arrived, they were asked if they'd be willing to donate his organs because their son was brain dead. And they said they were willing. The family said that they would allow the organ retrieval team to take his organs if they could have a family member in the hospital, in the operating room at the time that his heart stops. Now, I don't know if you know anything about healthcare, but no one's allowed in the operating room except for the people actually involved in the surgery. No one at all. And in my healthcare work, I'd gone to different places, been with different ethnic groups, spoke at different events, and my bias had always been that I would meet the cultural needs of my patient as long as it wasn't against federal law. So if a patient asked, can I circumcise my daughter? The answer was no, that's against federal law. But if they asked, can we hang this, or can we request this, or can a shaman come in? Absolutely. But here was a request against hospital policy. And here's the thing. When the family said they wanted a family member to be in the operating room, our chaplain, who I knew had been doing diversity work because I was on his committee, didn't say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do that. He said, help me understand what this means to you. Why is this important to you? And the family said it was because they were Native American. They believed the soul of their son rested in his heart. They wanted his heart to stop beating, for prayers to be said, so that their son's spirit could move on. And then we could take the organs. So with that information, we had to convince everyone. The organ retrieval team, the organ preservation team, our physicians had to approve it. Our legal team had to approve it. We had physicians saying, I'm not doing that, or I can't let someone in the operating room to stand over me and then sue me. And long story short, we did make it happen. We were told by the organ retrieval system that was the first time in 25 years that a Native American family had consented to donating the organs of a loved one. 25 years? That's huge. I think that's what inclusion looks like. It's hard, it's challenging, but it takes asking, what is our end goal? What do we want to accomplish? And it takes all of us being able to put aside our mindset and look at things differently than we ever have before. We can never get to a place where we think our education supersedes someone else's experience. Someone else's perspective is just as valuable, even if you disagree with how they see the world or what they do with their lives. It's just as valuable. So that's my mission. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that happens.